Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fractal Standard, episode number 15. The Fractal Standard is a daily variety show that's an offshoot of my main website called The Fractal Journal, which you can find at fractaljournal.com. On that website, you'll find stories, ideas, shitty webcomics, all sorts of stuff. So if that sounds up your alley, please go ahead and check it out. I'm on my fourth cup of coffee for today, which is within the healthy range, according to the New York Times article I just read. The article I got from a Pocket Recommendation, and it is titled, "Is Coffee Good For You in the Scam or Not?" section under Self-Care. It is by Don McKean, and it was published on February 13th, 2020, and updated February 18th, 2020. I feel like being pedantic today for some reason. Interesting thing, see how I'm holding the coffee cup in front of me. That's not good game. That is a social faux pas. I'm supposed to hold it down here in order to portray a nonchalance that will get me mad pussy, apparently. Just a factoid that is forever stuck in my head. Once you hear something goofy like that, you can never forget it. The sad thing is, it might actually have some truth to it. Getting back to the coffee. I'm not going to talk terribly much about what this says because it agrees with my original ideation about the subject, which is that coffee is fantastic for you. It contains all sorts of chemistry. That's great. Antioxidants, etc. But what I will talk about is you should take all of this dietary advice with a huge grain of salt, especially older dietary advice. Because the way that they finally concluded that coffee is not bad for you, it was potentially thought to be carcinogen, is I took out of the data set that they were looking at the people that also smoked on top of having the coffee. Now, that's a big, big factor, and if I read this correctly, this removal of the set of people that smoked on top of drinking the coffee didn't occur until 2015. So, if there's oversights like that, what else is wrong? That's why, you'll see guests on Joe Rogan, and there are websites like Rogue Health and Fitness that talk all about how cholesterol and fat and protein are not the demons, but it's actually sugar. And the sugar industry has had a lot to do with obfuscation, or at least it's very likely that it has. Yeah. So, moving right along the topic list here. Philosophy's contribution to science. The following quote I am reading from PNAS, which stands for Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences of the United States. We illustrate our point with 3 examples taken from various fields of the contemporary life sciences. Each bears on cutting-edge scientific research, and each has been explicitly acknowledged by practicing researchers as a useful contribution to science. These and other examples show that philosophy's contribution can take at least 4 forms: the clarification of scientific concepts, the critical assessment of scientific assumptions or methods, the formulation of new concepts and theories, and the fostering of dialogue between different sciences, as well as between science and society. And this article, which I mentioned a few videos ago, basically supports, from everything I understood there, my initial assertion that, in essence, science and philosophy's relationship boils down to philosophy being integral in the understanding and communication of science. And this would make sense because science sprang from philosophy, from making theories about the world and then using physical means, repeatable physical experimentation to establish the veracity of those theories. And they both continued to develop, to evolve, both in parallel and in tandem. So there's certain questions that philosophy couldn't answer and that science could, and that science couldn't answer and that philosophy couldn't, and that's the parallel. Then there's in tandem when they would meet in order to explain a given phenomenon, like in physics and other disciplines. So, food for thought of why scientists and people who believe themselves to be allied with a scientific mindset, people who call themselves science-minded and who like websites like I Fucking Love Science, these kind of hipster science fans, it would behoove them to pay attention to philosophy as well, and it would make their arguments and understandings of the world a lot less facile, which would make it far less infuriating to have a national discourse. Now, speaking of national discourse, how much attention should we pay to campaign theater? The presidential election is obviously on everybody's mind. Here in my spring 2020 edition of the Teamsters little publication, Teamsters host the presidential forum. I have not yet read it, but obviously this has to do with which candidates support, unions. On the front, it's got Buttigieg and Bernie and Biden and whoever that one fellow is, who's a billionaire, Steiner, or however you say his name, I don't remember. But, it's all up in my face. I went to church the other day. Took my grandfather to his church for their little small group study get together. And during the meal, one of the acquaintances there asked me about the presidential election. We got on that topic in general. And I said, I'd given up on elections when I voted for Obama in 2008 because he so wildly diverged from expectations and fell into the mold of what's been going on, the status quo. No matter who's in power, there's a very slight variation in policy, and everything largely remains the same in terms of our engagements overseas and in terms of the way that things function on the home front, environmentally, economically, etc., ad nauseum. And what I proffered instead of, paying attention to presidential elections is that I educate myself and others about various issues like water, which I'm still reading about very slowly but surely, so as to drive change at the grassroots level. Now, is this an effective strategy? Well, clearly at least some attention has to be paid to elections, but I can't help but conclude that a lot of the election process and the debates are highly charged emotional theater, WWE style, like as Jim Brewer pointed out, that polarizes people and detracts from the issues by only giving the surface level analysis to the end of just being able to classify ourselves into our respective positions, to toe our party lines. So just look at all the issues that have all the juice squeezed out of them till nothing but the dry core remains, leaving us with these broad brush arguments for or against socialism, populism, welfare, bootstrapping, environmentalism, business, etc. We don't talk about things like nitrification and what happened in the Chesapeake Bay. No, we talk about, oh, well, you're going to hurt business, or oh, you're going to hurt environment. And basically what this becomes is an anthropomorphization of issues, where we take these issues and we basically turn them into these caricatures of the sorts of people we'd like to hang out with and the sorts of people we'd like to be. So it becomes a popularity contest of these anthropomorphized caricatures, and it does not bode well for solving our problems. So I reached the 10-minute mark. Thank you for joining me. I wish I could make these longer, but I have been awake since about 3 in the morning, and I still have some things to do. I unfortunately have not been able to write anything this week because I had friends visiting from out of state and all of that. It's very, very difficult to get back on track once you get off of it, but I'll do it eventually. Anyhow, as I said earlier, my main website is fractaljournal.com, which you can find at fractaljournal.com. And if you like this video, hit the subscribe button and thumbs up on YouTube. It helps me out tremendously. And feel free to comment whatever way you want, positive or negative. I don't mind. I enjoy all sorts of input and discussion. Take care, everybody.